You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to They Live by Film. I'm not going to do the entire intro because I definitely don't remember it after this long, but with me, with my terrible cough, is also going to be Chris. Chris, how are you doing today?
Hey, Zach. You know what? I think this is just going off some muscle memory here. I think we're a platform dedicated to discussion of cinema from around the world.
Doesn't sound familiar. I don't think we do that.
Okay.
We've been in the US too long on our show. I don't think we do it around the world anymore.
And how fun the US is in this current venture.
Well, we're
Um,
going to be doing some Hooper today. That's always fun.
yeah, exactly. Are you
Yeah.
have you I know you don't watch a lot of movies outside of the podcast.
No.
Have you been watching anything?
Uh, let's see. I should have pulled this up beforehand. I've actually been hitting a weird spell where I've been watching stuff, but I haven't like loved anything too new I've seen lately.
Okay,
It's been kind
okay.
of a rough month. I did see a few really interesting movies a couple weeks ago. One of them was this movie, and I actually think you might like this one. It was a movie called The Centerfold Girls. It was from the 1974.
Okay.
And we'll kind of get into talking about anthologies with Hooper, so this kind of fits right in. But essentially, it's about like this serial killer who is like sex maniac type, but he is killing girls who were in who modeled one time for like a Centerfold magazine. So it's
Okay.
three different stories of him stalking these women and
Okay.
kind of the other stuff that's going on with them. I think it was like a brilliant idea for like a slasher movie, and I was like, this is something that could have had like multiple. There's no sequels to it, obviously, but
Hmm.
really, really interesting kind of setup for everything. It's sleazy, but it's kind of it's not criticizing the girls for being sleazy because they're kind of the ones that are in the bad spot in every single scenario because they modeled one time for a nude magazine,
Okay.
essentially.
Okay.
So that one I really recommend. I thought that one was very good. And then I know you're a Mondo Macabro guy, so I watched Hunting Grounds, which I think is in Spanish called Coto de Caza.
Okay.
I
Yep.
don't know if you have that one. I know you have a lot of Mondo Macabro.
I have it. Yes. That's
Have you seen
amazing.
it?
I'm trying to remember. It's the one start to tell me the plot and I'll tell you immediately.
Basically, this woman, she's a defense attorney, and her husband is killed right in front of her by these three people robbing their like vacation home, and she is kind of like dealing with the fact that these are usually the people that she defends,
No, I haven't
and
seen it.
she's yeah,
Okay.
it's really good. I
Okay.
highly recommend it. And it's actually one that you can still get the red case for. I was looking for it on eBay the other day. And I was like, wow, that was still like $25 for the red
Uh-huh.
case. So, and then I'm going to just start with one more. Actually, the best movie I probably watched this month that I hadn't seen previous is The Deadly Spawn. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I went to. Well, let me
So
explain this.
fun.
I sort of went to Orbit recently. I went at the worst time because that was the whole reason I went down there was going to Orbit. I went with my sister. We stayed overnight, and I was like, "Sweet, I'm going to go the next day. I'm going to go to Orbit, show her around because she's never been." And they're closed for painting.
No.
I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" So they still were taking online orders. So while we went and got lunch, I ordered a few different movies. I ordered The Deadly Spawn, Murder Rock, which is a Fulci film,
Yep.
and then I got well, what was the other two things? It's probably bad. I spent all that money. I can't remember everything I got. Let me see if I can find it in a picture real quick.
Murder Rock is fun. I'm a defender. I'm a Murder Rock defender.
I think it'll be fun. Honestly, I do. I'm a I was the people I at least follow seem to have really liked it. So I was like,
Mhm.
I think I picked right. Nope.
Dude, that I was just looking it up. Hunting Ground is by Jorge Grau. That's have you ever seen well, the title that was released here in the US by I think it was Synapse is the Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue or
I want to see it. Yeah, didn't Synapse put that out, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure. The other
Yeah.
title is Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, but that movie is amazing. Like it's really good.
It's been on my list forever. Like they had a really cool steelbook for it, and I wanted to get it. But the other two things I got was Martyrs and Stage Fright from Blue Underground. So that means the Stage Fright 4K will be coming out because I finally caved and bought the Blu-ray.
Stage Fright meaning Aquarius, like the
Yeah, yeah,
oh
Aquarius. Yeah.
man,
So
what an amazing movie. Okay.
yeah, it is. I've been waiting forever. I was like, they're gonna announce a 4K for that eventually,
Yeah.
and I
There
got
are
tired of
some
waiting.
individual tracking shots in that film that are I would put up against any tracking shot of any film. Just
Uh,
you know the scenes where there's like feathers flying down and there's bodies that are kind of like artistically laid out.
yeah.
Cameras panning. It's like that's like a beautiful cinema, man. Like what's going on?
Well, and this guy made four really good to fantastic horror movies, and then
Mm,
never did horror movies again.
I don't know. He's like
Like
made
it's
TV guy.
crazy to me when I watch him. Like now, the sect and the church aren't my favorites by any means, but I think Stage Fright and Cemetery Man are phenomenal.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
it's like this dude should have been continued making horror movies.
I yeah. There's in fact there's a lot of parallels to his career and Tobe Hooper's career. Although Hooper got a few more chances to make features. But you know, they both kind of fell into a TV cycle.
Yeah,
Um, but and they both have these incredible creative visions. But no, I mean, Michele Suave is just absolute genius. I love him. I love him, and I if I had $1 billion, I'd give him 10 million of it to go make another movie because I love
yeah, go
like
for
when
it.
he's unfiltered, he just seems like he's awesome. I think Cemetery Man is extremely underrated.
Oh, 100%. Like, and that was one of those movies I literally bought because of how famous like the media book cover for that is.
Sure,
Yeah, and I was like, I've got to see whatever this movie is. Like, I don't know what it is, but I've got to see it. And yeah. I think I watched it and then I watched Stage Fright right afterwards
that's
because I
cool.
was
I
like,
don't know.
obviously this guy makes things I like.
Yeah, I don't know which one I like better. It kind of depends on mood, but
Yeah.
I will say both of them, I think especially Cemetery Man, no matter what the hype is, I think it lives up to it or beats the hype, which is cool.
Yeah, like with Stage Fright, I kind of describe it to people if you want like what would be the most pure slasher experience for that era,
Hmm.
like late 80s, I can't think of a better late 80s slasher movie.
Yeah.
Because at that point, everything had become like so oversaturated. And that one, even though it's hitting a lot of the same beats, it's a guy from an insane asylum breaking out, putting on a costume, and killing people. I was like, we've seen
Yeah,
that a million times, but it's done so well
yeah, exactly.
that it doesn't matter. It
You
doesn't
know
matter how many
what?
times I've seen it.
Speaking of Murder Rock, there's another one that was just recently released by him called Honey. What is it? Honey,
Devil
oh,
Honey?
Devil's Honey.
I have the Blu-ray. I didn't get I bought the Blu-ray and then they put the 4K out. But
Man,
yeah,
that's another underrated
I
horror
haven't
kind
seen
of.
it yet. I bought
Uh,
it. Severin had like a sale where their Blu-ray was like 3.99.
yeah.
And I was like, ah, it's faulty. There's at least a chance that I can't imagine it's not worth $4.
Oh, it's worth $4, man. It has a saxophone. Like,
Oh, sold.
yeah, I won't go into any more details as to what that is. You have to just watch it. But um, it's it's awesome. It's like peak pervy and gory Fulci. It's great.
So what about you? Have you had time to watch much?
I have, yeah. You know, I have to watch movies for a lot of different reasons now. Um, so there's a bunch of stuff that I watch specifically for podcasts now. But I'm having a great time. Like, so one of the things, I don't know if I've told you, I know I've mentioned this to you, but I have like a weekly, well, once every 10 days or so, watch one Shaw Brothers movie and write about it. And there's like seven other people that write about it in kind of
Yes.
like a
Yes.
conversational style. Yeah, yeah. So we're up to nine or 10 now, which is kind of cool. It's gone fast. And there's been some really good ones in the Shaw Brothers set. That volume one is like it's cool. It's like a Shaw Brothers 101. Um, so you know there's like they introduce you to kind of like the Shaolin Temple storyline that comes up a bunch of times through in Shaw Brothers, and like the we're just now introduced to the five deadly venoms,
Okay.
which is kind of fun. and like there's you get to see the same actors and like the same people coming in different roles and stuff, which is cool. So that's been a pretty fun journey actually. um there is you know what I saw? I rewatched recently. When's the last time you saw Lawnmower Men?
Many, many years ago.
That movie's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get connected into that because we'll be talking about the Mangler here soon. But yeah, that's a Stephen King movie that's not really based on anything because it's not anything like the short story.
It's cool though. It's like I don't even know what it is. It's just like
I
it's
don't
very
think
much
anybody
it's
does. I don't think the people who made it knew what it was.
exactly.
They just made it.
I thought about y'all when I saw The Great Silence again.
Okay.
Because I know Adam loves a good snowy western, and neither you or I hate the idea.
Yeah.
Um, and man, there are some individual shots in The Great Silence that are just they rival any western that's ever like it's just unbelievable some of the shots they get of nature there. Uh,
Yeah. Too bad Vinegar Syndrome didn't make more of those limited editions.
I'm sure there's going to be some they'll probably figure out somehow to do it because I don't think it's so hard to predict, right? Like
I feel like Great Silence was one they predicted though. Like 2000,
yeah,
2000 limited editions.
they should have done 5,000.
Yeah, like Rad. What didn't Rad get like five?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like and that sold out quick, if I
That's
remember
true.
correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. Yeah, no, The Great Silence is amazing. And it's just such a beautiful movie. And it's so like the story itself is so nihilistic and dark and like moody. It's just awesome. Awesome Western. Awesome cinematography, beautiful cinematography. Um,
Have you ever seen I know before we started recording you talked about pieces, so this kind of relates to that. Have you ever seen The Big Gun Down?
oh
That,
gosh, it's
that
so great.
yeah, for some reason I associate them a lot together.
Mm.
But I think that was fair. I don't think enough people talk about The Big Gun Down enough.
That was a Grindhouse releasing.
Grindhouse releasing because they did pieces as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's the
Yeah.
director for oh Sergio Solima. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that has Van Cleef and who's Django?
Uh,
Milian.
Franco Nero.
Oh, Franco Nero, then it's not him. I'm sorry.
Is
Big
it
Gun
not?
Down.
Now I'm doubting myself. I gotta look.
No, Franco Nero is Django. You're right.
Okay. Okay. I
But
was like, oh no.
that's not the guy in Big Gun Down. It's the other big famous guy, Milian.
Yes, Million.
Man, that's cool. Yeah, that's a great movie. The only other thing, I mean, I could just rattle stuff off, but there's two more I'll just quickly say. So from a like canonical cinema perspective, I went my personal canon. The Stuntman just got a beautiful release from Radiance sub-label called Transmission. And I don't know if you've ever seen The Stuntman, but that movie is just amazing. Like I have such a great time with it. And then the other one would be Demon Warp, which is hilarious. Demon Warp is like it's like eight different movies all blended together. Um, it's hilarious. Have you ever seen Demon Warp?
I have not. I have seen they're putting out Hell's Highway. Maybe this upcoming
Yeah,
month.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm excited for that one because I probably will order that one from that sub label, but I haven't seen the one you're talking about.
So Stuntman is from them. Yeah, that is like how do I explain it? You know when Peter O'Toole just kind of goes full Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
So this is a great example of that for him just being a film director who's out of his mind. And this criminal who's on the run, who joins the crew of this movie because Peter O'Toole likes him and like hides him from the police. And
Hmm.
so they just have this like really insane back and forth. Like it's psychologically it's just kind of a crazy movie. And it has a few stunts in it. But then Demon Warp is different. That was a Vinegar Syndrome release, and that's just like a fun. It's like it starts off as a Bigfoot movie,
Okay.
and then by the end there's aliens. I think there's zombies, maybe, but like there's like it's a complete just like genre mashup, and it's super fun. and it's low budget, but like in a really fun way. So I'm gonna push people to Demon Warp. If you want one of those movies, like it would make a fantastic party movie if you're just wanting to put on some movie to have fun with.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Um,
I'll have to check that one out. You said that was under their sub label too
I
for
think Demon
transmission.
Warp is a main one for them. Um, Demon Warp is 2 months. Yeah, it's the one of their mainline releases. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm seeing. Oh, yeah, I'm seeing it now. Yeah,
It's
yeah, it
got
looks wild.
it's got everything in it kind of thrown together. Um, yeah, it's great. It's one like I forget if it's even 90 minutes. It might be shorter. Okay, just touches 90 minutes. But for 50 minutes, you're like, okay. And then they just start unraveling all this everything else around it. You're like, what is happening? It's awesome though.
Speaking of not knowing what's going on, should we move into our first
Oh,
Hooper movie with Night Terrors?
oh, I love this. I think I'm curious to see how this episode goes in terms of how you like these movies, but this
I'm
is a
very
really
mixed. I'm very mixed on these we're going to talk about, to be honest.
beautiful, beautiful retelling of the Marquis de Sade story.
Yes, this was the way it was meant to be told.
Totally agree. Man, I'm gonna defend this movie a lot.
Let
I
me
don't
get into
know.
the synopsis, and then I
Yeah,
will let
let's
you
do
get
it.
into yours. So, actually, this is short. I'm surprised because I didn't know what was going on for half this movie. A woman visiting her father in Egypt becomes involved with the Marquis de. Why did they ask me? Well, I should have got you to read this one. Desaad descendant and his terrifying cult. Yes, I remember those things happening. Do we have this? I'm going to take a guess and say these are on neither list we normally check.
I'm it's not showing up on the they shoot pictures list. Which is unfortunate, but I'm not gonna yeah,
And
it's
you
not
didn't write
here.
it on your review on Letterbox, which you usually are pretty good about that. So
Yeah,
I don't.
no, and then this is gonna be Tobe Hooper. So what is this called? Night Terrorist. There's a chance it's on They Shoot Zombies. No. Yeah, it's 7,000 on They Shoot Zombies. So like one person threw it on a list somewhere.
So, and they really meant a different movie, and they were like, it's fine. But no, I would love. I actually am curious because the kind of the thing I did when I watched it is I was like, this would be such a good Italian film if he
Yes.
cared less about the plot. Because like at some points, it's like I think he wants me to care what's going on, but I have no idea what's going on for half of this. There's like a Arab dude who's completely naked on a white horse at one point, and I'm like, okay. And then I was just at some point, I think I just gave up trying to understand fully what's going on. I was like, I guess I'm just going to be here for the vibes. It does have good vibes. I will say that's like something Hooper's always pretty good at, and
I
I
think
think there's
he
really cool imagery in this movie
exactly.
that he really pulls out strong. But I was like, he should have just went and made make it even more convoluted plot. So I know, like, right, I don't care. Like the Beyond, like I
Yeah.
can watch the Beyond. I still don't know what goes on in that movie half the
No,
time.
nobody really does.
I just watch it.
Yeah. The premise is there's an archaeologist, like a nerdy kind of bookish archaeologist, right? And his daughter comes to visit him, who's an American, and they're in Egypt. And he goes off on like this dig, I guess. He he was hoping to spend time with her, but he gets pulled away to go on a dig. And so as she finds ways to entertain herself, she gets caught up in this world that would fit, I think, really well in like the Cenobite universe.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
But instead of it being that, it's I guess the corporeal equivalent of of the Hellraiser franchise, where it's just the Marquis de Sade, right? And it's
Yeah.
like a slight exaggeration on probably the stuff that he would be into. Because I think the best I can tell is there's some kind of psychic connection between
Wait, I just realized, is this the same thing that Justine thing is based off of as well? For
probably
Jesus
the
Franco, like isn't that
yeah
what the Blue Underground? Sorry, I just put that together that that's the name
it.
on
Well,
that
are you
thing.
talking about Marquis de Sade?
Yeah.
Oh, that is the same for sure.
Okay. Okay. It just clicked for me. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It just hit my
No,
mind. So-
that's awesome. I mean, yeah, he's a pretty influential writer. He speaking of
but he's
Hellraiser,
French, so I didn't read him.
no, as you shouldn't.
Yeah.
He's an interesting dude. Like he would write prose on this prison wall with his own feces. Um, he's not a he's not a totally sane guy. But he's been very influential. Is it Clive Barker that did Hellraiser?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So he's got, he has in his private life, he's really into S&M and stuff. He talks about that on one of the
I'm
commentaries.
so shocked. I cannot believe this information.
And so I think a
Clive
lot of that,
Barker.
yeah, exactly.
He seemed like
Um,
just a wholesome Christian dude. I would have never imagined.
I mean, he probably is.
He probably is, honestly.
But anyways, yes, Marquis de Sade is an influential writer, and I think in this movie there's like a psychic connection between him and Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, who's
Yeah.
playing
Which
basically
him and
like,
Hooper have worked together a weird amount of times at this point.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's cool that they're like buds.
Because I feel like he worked with Hooper more than he worked with Craven. Because
Oh,
Craven only does the one Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
that's an
And
interesting
yeah, they feel
trivia.
like it would be the other way around.
Well, Robert Englund's an interesting one because he's sort of got typecast, right? But then Hooper saw him as an actor and
Yeah.
put him in because he is a classically trained actor, right? That's one of the reasons Freddy Krueger works so well. But yeah, I think Hooper saw him in a different light, so he plays all these really interesting roles for him. This one probably the most that he does for him, I think.
I would
Is
say
that fair?
so. Yeah.
Like they lean on him the most in this, even though he's not introduced until 30 or 40 minutes in, but they lean on him a lot here. But yeah, I mean, it's an exploration of pleasure and pain, right? In the same way that, so the term
Hmm.
sadism comes from Marquis de Sade, right?
Okay.
So like BDSM is directly linked to him. Um, yeah. So it's that type of sexual perversion. A lot of times people call it like that. And it's the danger that this like innocent young woman falls into and she gets in over her head, and then it starts to enter this kind of like dreamy sort of state where you don't really know what's real and it's not, and it gets a little bit surreal at times, which it's like honey for me.
Yeah, I
So
mean, like I think as far as a vibe goes, I do enjoy a lot of it. I think it just takes a while to get going. Like you kind of
yeah.
mentioned that England doesn't come in until like 40 minutes, and that's really when the movie feels like it kind of starts.
Oh, big time.
And I'm like, because at that point, at like 40 minutes in, I'm like, what are we even doing? Like I kind of felt like, and I'm sure that was somewhat designed, but I was like, where is this movie going?
Yeah.
Because we watch it for the podcast. I rarely look up what's even about. I just kind of like go into it. And
No.
it almost feels like one of those things where the script was written as just kind of your standard fair genre picture.
Mhm.
And Hooper was like, I can make this kind of a little art house surreal. And I'm not sure it worked, but I kind of appreciated it for it.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to remember if I think I was reading something about this. This is another one of these movies that Hooper got involved with, where there was a different director that had started it.
Oh my God, it's over good. Let me see if I can find it while you're talking. I'm gonna see if I can figure out
And
who it was.
Robert Englund is the one that said, like, no, no, we got to get Hooper in.
Because at that point, him and Hooper had just recently did the Nightmare on Elm Street show, not that
Right.
long before this.
Yeah, 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 definitely. So Hooper came in to save the day. And what I don't know is what's that company, the production company, Globus Gomulus, or
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Let's see. Global Pictures. Global Pictures.
okay. So one of the guys' names there is Ron Globus, I think.
I'm looking. I'm on like the thing, so I will. Yeah, Rom Globus.
Yeah. So he was a writer on this. So this is like just one of these incestuous kind of movies where um they it's like all these sort of people that were around Canon Films and American Independent AIP and like all the people that were kind of coming up through this world and branched off on their own. Um, this was one of these projects that started. Um, the guy, the guy that produced this, Harry Allen Towers, there's a connection to what you said earlier. He was a producer and he produced a lot of like the scandalous stuff from the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
And he did a lot of Jess Franco movies, including Venus and Furs, which a lot of people think are some of his best, and Justine.
Okay. So it all comes back together eventually.
It's all Harry Allen Towers.
Yeah, it all comes back to Harry Allen Towers.
But yeah, I mean, I think my, this is something we're going to talk about a lot today but like this is the beginning to me of this weird era where it doesn't feel like a Toby Hooper movie. But I am glad that he's involved because I think he brings in I think he's willing to make it more exciting than it is on the page. I think he's good at that.
I agree. I agree because I could see a version of this movie that's just dry,
Yeah.
and the movie's not dry. Like as many issues as I have with some of it, it's not a dry movie. I was my eyes were on the screen the whole time I watched it,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that says a lot.
Totally. And I think it's one that could be reevaluated. It's like I could see somebody getting a hold of this and finding some merit in it.
Yeah, and I think that's it's kind of unfortunate, but when you think of the kind of your Mount Rushmore 70s horror guys. You have
Mhm.
Craven, Carpenter, Romero, and Hooper. The 90s was kind of a rough time for all of them except for Craven. But a lot of them have had their work reevaluated later. Like I know Romero had is it Two Evil Eyes he did with Argento? That one's been, I feel like, has been reevaluated. People really enjoy it more now. And then Carpenter had In the Mouth of Madness and Vampires, which I think both have been seen more positively now than they did when they released. Of course, Craven had Scream, so it's not like he had to worry about anything. His evaluation was probably at its highest then. So I can see some of these with Hooper definitely getting that treatment.
Mhm.
We'll get into Apartment Complex later. I think that's the one that I think has like I need like a bigger boutique label to put that one out.
Yes.
But this one's it's an interesting movie, and I'm actually surprised. I don't know if did it get an actual release by anybody? It seems like a Scream Factory throw it out there disc.
This 100% is Scream Factory coded. I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's see. Did it get one? Yeah, what's
Horror
this?
Pack exclusive? Is this the same movie? Oh no, that's a different Night Terrors. That's confusing.
There is a release that came out, but maybe DVD.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. 'Cause every time I look, it's just rats.
No, DVD, I
Night of
think, is the
Terror,
last.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, DVD is the last one. But anyways, yeah, it needs a release. Night Terrace, come on. It would be I think this movie is fun, and I would love to have a commentary on this one just to talk about the production and stuff.
Yeah, you
Um,
feel like you need some historian there to kind of talk about it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You could do a lot with the Marquis de Sade there.
Yeah, and I think and I think this will be really interesting. I know we're not there yet, and I know you haven't seen it yet, but I think this will be a really interesting one to look back on when we get to his final movie, Jen, because he kind of re-explores kind of that Middle East, the horror
Right,
of the Middle East and stuff.
right.
So it was kind of interesting. I was actually really glad I had seen Jen before seeing this because I was like, oh, he kind of explored those ideas from Jen like a decade and a half before he had made that one. So I was like, that's cool.
Night Terrors walk so Jen could run.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and claim Jen's a great movie, but it's an interesting movie. It's kind of in the same ballpark as it's very interesting.
Okay. All right. Then man, I mean, I don't have too much else to say on Night Terrors. For me, I don't think it on IMDb it is a 3.6 out of 10. I don't think it's that deserved to.
No, no, I'm actually surprised. Like, usually when you get that, it's a popular movie that's notoriously bad,
Right.
or it's some like direct to video terrible thing that no one likes.
Right.
Not, yeah, that seems a little low. I'd expect that to maybe be in like the fours out of
At least the
10.
fours. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like I know I can't go like a ton higher than that, but I was like, it's not that bad.
I don't have too much else to say about it. I think it's a fun and unhinged. look at the Marquis de Sade legend. And I think it's worth a viewing.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll actually be moving on to another movie that I'm sure actually has a lower IMDb rating. I'd be curious to what it is. Is his once again with Robert Englund, his 1995 film, The Mangler,
It's
which
higher,
is it? What's it at?
4.5.
Okay, that's actually higher than I thought it was because I never hear anybody compliment this movie, which we'll get into. I actually like The Mangler. Um, a laundry folding machine has been possessed by a demon, causing it to develop homicidal tendencies.
Yeah.
I have never heard. Actually, this is surprising for Letterboxd, where I think it actually undersells the movie a little bit. There is also a demon possessed fridge, so I feel like they needed to mention that.
This is a great double feature. Go back and listen to our episode of The Bed That Eats, Deathbed,
Oh, and or a battle heater,
and Battle Heater.
battle heater. Ah,
Uh,
man, I'm glad I got that one.
yeah, that was a wonderful selection by you. Okay, keep going on the mango though, because I have a lot to say on this.
Yeah, as far as the Mangler goes, this was one, if people want to kind of listen, it is interesting that I think I probably rated it lower than I did initially, but I still really like it. I did an episode of favorite Stephen King adaptations with Ryan on an episode of Disconnected,
Okay.
which if people want to go listen to, that list would be 100% different now. But the Mangler was on there, and I remember getting a lot of shit for that. So while I still wouldn't probably rate it as high as I did then, the Mangler is so wacky. It feels like this weird spiritual successor to both Eaten Alive and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Like it's just it there's no like this kind of leans into what I think I wanted Night Terrors to do,
Mm,
where I want to see scenes like Ted Levine beating a refrigerator with a sledgehammer for 5 minutes.
right, right.
That's what I need.
And I can't remember. I don't think the machine ever bleeds, does it?
No,
Yeah, they
no.
should have found a way to make it bleed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's I mean you got such like I'm a huge fan of Ted Levine. I probably mispronouncing his name, but that's the way I've always assumed it's said.
Hmm.
Always been a huge fan of him, so I was really glad to see him be the protagonist. And then you have Robert Englund, who is just chewing scenery for like every scene he's in the movie.
He's great.
And then the sidekick Ted Levine has in the movie is great. Like he just asks women if they're virgins, and you're just like, what the fuck is this movie?
One piece of trivia I love about this. I didn't get to watch these, which is unfortunate, but I'll try. There's two sequels that came from this.
Wait, there were? I knew there was one.
Yeah, they're Mangler 2 and then the Mangler Reborn.
Oh my God. There is a movie called The Wrangler Reborn. This movie has to be oh, it's on Tubi. I'm gonna watch it.
I was gonna say it's I'm sure it's on Tubi.
The second
Um,
one's not on Tubi. What is this?
oh damn. But man, I mean, look at the second one has Lance Hendrickson, so you know it's gonna be good.
Oh yeah, that's a mark of quality.
But I gotta be honest, man, I had a great time with the Mangler. Like
Yeah,
I think my perception of what good movies are is so warped at this point because like this my bar for whether or not I like a movie is does the movie know what it is? Does it deliver on the premise? And is it doing something interesting with the idea?
100%. Yeah.
And like this checks all the boxes, man.
And I
It's
think between all the ones we're going to talk about today, this one feels the most Hooperish. Like I feel like this
100%,
is yeah, this feels
100%.
like Hooper.
The only argument I would make against that is that Hooper brings in a lot of like big ideas into the movies where he's able to have total freedom.
Yeah.
And this is much more of a straightforward, just simple horror story, right? Like I think I think if this was part of an anthology and this was 40 minutes instead of a full movie,
Yeah,
I
it
think
does
people
not
would
need to
be
be almost 2 hours.
yeah, it's probably
That's the biggest knock I have on the movie is it's too
right.
long.
Yeah, I think people would be talking about this as some of his best work if it was packaged as an anthology.
And it's kind of sad because Hooper probably did more with anthologies than any other director. Like
Hmm.
obviously he wanted that idea to
Hmm.
work
Hmm.
because he did it all the time.
Yeah, he's good.
So
He's good at
yeah,
it.
I think he has good ideas for stuff like that. I mean, I would love to see a recut version of this. This is another one I'm guaranteeing Shout Factory put out. Let me see if I'm right.
Oh,
I feel like they did.
I would put money on that. Um, this was released by New Line. Is this? I think this is the first time he's working with New Line. I should have had that detail ready.
Yep, it's a Shout Factory release.
Okay,
Of course it is.
but
Um, but yeah, off the top of my head, I believe it is, and it might be. Is it the only time he worked with them? Because let's see, apartment complex with stars. What was Crocodile? Who did Crocodile? Let me see.
yeah,
I don't
It-
even recognize those fucking companies. Yeah, I think that might be it, unless he did some stuff with them in the 2000s.
yeah. So that's cool. I mean, that's he's in their catalog now.
Yeah.
I just wonder when we talk about his run with Canon and what he could have done had they stayed solvent, but I just feel like that nobody else was willing to give him a budget and a chance, which is so unfortunate. Um, because he's just so talented. Like the thing that strikes me about the Mangler is you can say whatever you want about the premise, I guess maybe being a silly premise or whatever, which is fair. Again, this is a Stephen King story, so like, you know,
I mean, we all saw like Dreamcatcher. Like that's about aliens coming out of the toilet. It's Stephen King trying to make anything scary.
exactly.
Like this
So
is nothing new.
yeah, but I think but I think he does a good job with the source material. Like he's,
I
like
think he leans into it. I think he's
exactly.
like this is a killer laundry machine. Like this can't be self-serious. Like there's no way. It's just like when he came and did like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. He's like, there is no reason that this movie should be serious.
I
Like,
think
how do
he
you
knows
do a
that
premise to that that's serious?
I think he knows that distinction as well or better than anybody.
Yeah. And I
Because
think it's because he can do wacky surprisingly well. Like, I mean, you think about Poltergeist too. Like, Poltergeist gets wacky.
I know. Yeah, I'm just thinking of was it the first episode or maybe it was the TCM2 episode we did, but we were talking about this idea that like he seems to thrive in the middle of just total chaos.
Yeah, yeah. I 100% agree with that.
And I think the Mangler is not the movie never gets that crazy. I mean, it's a fairly contained horror film. But if you can disregard like the crazy premise, like the movie itself is well contained.
Yeah.
But he just like yeah, like I like that you said lean into it. He's able to say, okay, I understand exactly what this is. Let's go have some fun with it. And like when the machine opens up and like eats people and tries to pull them in, that's great horror. Like that's a great horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see like if you're a director who takes themselves too seriously, you could really screw that up like
Right.
badly. And I think that's something that's kind of interesting with Hooper because I think when you read about like his thought process and you see some of the subjects he does, I think you can mistakenly see him as maybe a pretentious person or somebody who could have those tendencies.
Mm.
But I think these type of movies always at least prove that at a lot of times he was pretty self-aware.
Oh, I totally agree. I
And I
totally
think
agree.
and I think that's something that because I think that kind of hurt him sometimes because he was such a art house guy. Like we've talked about it, especially when he's like with Canon and stuff. Like he's leaning into like a lot of artistry and he's pushing that hard. And but I mean, he never takes projects that see like that maybe somebody who was pretentious, it would be below them.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you look at the premises of most of his movies; they're kind of wacky premises.
No, no, totally.
Like even Texas Chainsaw Massacre is at the time kind of a wacky premise.
Yeah. No,
Like the teens just disappear and nobody's like, should we go look for them? I don't know. We'll wait till dark. Like, okay.
yeah. I think he was trying like yeah, I think he can do both. I think if you give him freedom, he's gonna make, because there's like this cosmetology aspect to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is not even necessarily relevant to the plot at all, but it gives it layers and interesting depth, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like he's always thinking along these different levels. And I think if when you give him a chance, he'll do it. But if you don't give him a chance, he'll just make like a solid, structured, professional horror movie that's like interesting. And I think The Mangler fits that. Like it has a good energy to it. You're right, Robert Englund, like it's a full ham sandwich and his
Yeah.
role. as somebody who's been affected by the Mangler, and he still loves the machine. He's like addicted to it.
And it's kind of amazing too to have somebody like Ted Levine at this point because I don't know if he won, but I'm sure he was nominated for Silence of the Lambs just a few years before this.
I'm sure he was, yeah.
Yeah, like I couldn't, I'd have to look up to see if he won or anything, but I mean, that was a big role for him.
Yeah, yeah.
So, for him to play in something like this is both kind of fun. I think, he's also an actor who's at least was always aware he was a character actor who had a cool voice. And I think that was a good pick for him because he kind of plays the straight man in the movie. Like the whole
Mhm.
movie's almost a comedy, and he's kind of the straight guy.
Yeah, this is the closest that I remember having this feeling when I was watching The Mangler of like I would have loved to see a collab between Terry Gilliam and Tobe Hooper,
That would be a wild movie.
right? Because they're both dreamers, you know? Like I don't see a huge difference. Terry Gilliam in his later in his career has become more maybe self-conscious or something. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is. Um, but you look at something like Brazil, or even when he did Seven, right? Wasn't that him? No,
that was Fincher.
that was Fincher. What's the one kind of like that he did?
Now I gotta Google.
Shoot. Um, he, sorry, this is a dead podcasting air right now.
I'm
12 Monkeys.
looking.
12 Monkeys.
Oh yeah, 12 Monkeys. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's always just like he, there's always a bigger dream there that you can tell he's just like he's got this unlimited kind of imagination. And I think Hooper's got it too. I think they're cut from the same cloth.
Well, this is probably like a conversation that's bigger than what we could discern just from speculation. But I think a lot of dreaminess has went away from some elements of film just because we're on a we're hitting digital so much. Like I look at something like The Mangler that's probably pretty low budget, but because of the film and because you have somebody who knows how to shoot for film,
Mm-hmm.
it can still have that a dreamy element to it. Like you look
Yes.
at like that's the thing when people talk about 16. 16 millimeter has a dreamy quality to it.
Big time, big time.
And then even with 35, like Hooper loves a fog machine. Like that's kind of why I compared this to Eating Alive. It's just fog machines everywhere.
Right, right, right.
Like and that I think that adds a lot. So I don't know this for certain, but sometimes I wonder if it's just where digital's a flatter look that it kind of
Mhm.
misses that mark sometimes on that feel.
Yeah, man, Vinegar Syndrome releases a lot of stuff that was shot on 16 mil,
Hmm.
and it's unbelievable the what a gritty, like interesting image can cover up from a skill standpoint of like writing and you know, like there's so much vibe, there's so much atmosphere with 16 millimeter.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, we talked about that a lot in our first episode here. We talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like that's
Exactly.
kind of he's shooting something so nightmarish in the daytime. And that's
Yeah.
what made that movie stick out so much.
Right. Right. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, tell me if there's anything else you want to say about the mango. I feel like that's a good,
No, I'm good with that. No, I think people should if you haven't seen The Mangler in a long time, I would highly recommend
yeah,
rewatching it now. I think that's if this is another one I think could definitely deserves like kind of a cult fan base.
I agree. Yeah. It's unfairly treated. I'll defend the mangler. It's unfairly treated. Yeah. So before we go on, I think Dark Skies was the one that we had talked about recording. Just to be double sure, you did not watch Nowhere Man, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Cool.
I skipped straight ahead to Dark Skies.
That's okay. We didn't even talk about it. I found it, and I had a bit of extra time, so I gave it a shot. Man, it's a really interesting show. So, like, he did the first two episodes, which is a theme that we're gonna be talking about more this recording. He did the pilot plus episode one, and the basic premise is this guy is had dinner with his wife celebrating the opening of his art gallery. He's like a photographer,
Hmm.
and they go have this steak dinner to celebrate this nice opening, and he's getting press and he's getting a little bit more well known. um and he goes to the bathroom and he comes back and his wife is missing, and the waiter doesn't recognize him. And as he goes on this hunt to find his wife, he goes to the typical people like that he knows in his life, and they don't recognize him anymore. Um, and the art studio is now under a different name. His agent like doesn't recognize him, and like the whole thing is just super crazy. And it basically the show gets at like what would you do if all of a sudden, like literally in a however long it took him to go pee and wash his hands, right? Like that 60 seconds or whatever, 90 seconds. His whole world changed completely. Um, and 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 then he started getting chased by some secret government agency because some picture that he took like contained something. So they thought maybe he knew something more than he knew. So how do you prove your innocence if they assume you're already guilty and you have all this knowledge of stuff? It's an interesting idea for a show, and I was kind of hooked by the end of the second episode. I kind of think I may go back and see it.
Oh, the main
Um,
guy is Bruce Greenwood. I love Bruce Greenwood.
he's really good in this, and the second episode, or I guess episode one, depending on how you view it, um, introduces another character, a female character, and this same thing happens to her. She puts her husband and kids in a car wash. They just go through a car wash, like one of those ones that are kind of like you drive the car and it does everything,
Mm.
and they come out on the other side and there's nobody in the car, and this car wash owner that she's been going to for 20 years doesn't recognize her. Doesn't He's like, lady, why are you yelling at me? Like, and then she can't find her kids, and so it starts to this you start to see this pattern show up. So I don't know what happens in episode two, but I kind of got hooked to it. I think I might watch it more. It's called Nowhere Man. It's pretty good. It's all on
We,
YouTube.
well, you know what's interesting, and we're gonna get kind of like when we get into Dark Skies, we'll talk about this a little bit anyway. But it's always interesting to me what X-File alumni do. So I just kind of was just like clicking around, and I was like, Mark Snow is the composer. I was like, I know that name. He's the guy who composed X-Files. And then you
Oh,
have like I was looking at the cinematographers, and I was like, some of them went on to American Horror Story. I was like, oh, okay, so they all kind of find that kind of groove and that sort of genre. So they probably had something good going on there for a little bit, just didn't pass the test, I guess, to
I,
keep
yeah, I
keep it
never got
going.
yeah, it didn't get syndicated, I guess, right? Or at
Yeah,
least didn't get into become super popular. But yeah, there's 25 episodes, so it had a little bit of a life.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, and it actually, oh, apparently, is the theme song good? Because it apparently got nominated for an Emmy for its theme song. So
It's
apparently
fine.
that was good. Okay,
It's
but
fine.
no, it sounds interesting. I might throw it on since the one good thing about these like Hooper things is every bit of the TV shows I've wanted to watch
Mhm.
have been on YouTube.
Yeah, they're
So
all on
that's been
YouTube. Yeah.
very nice. And these are entire shows. Like we'll get into the one at the end with Night Visions, and
Mhm.
every episode of Night Visions was put on YouTube like 13 years ago.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, okay, that's cool, thanks. And actually, the one we'll talk about now, Dark Skies, I also watch on YouTube. So I don't think we have to worry about any of this one being on either list, right? Since I don't think it really includes TV or anything like that, right? Well,
It
it's not a
does
TV movie.
occasionally. TV movies, it does. TV shows very rarely. Like the Decalogue is on there, but that's kind of like an exception.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't think Dark Skies is probably quite on the quality of Decalogue, if I had to guess. I haven't seen it, so maybe it is, but just as a random guess. So this is another TV show that Hooper did. This one ran for 19 episodes. It's about in 1960s America. A young couple struggle to expose the truth about hidden alien invasion while a secret government organization follows its own agenda in dealing with threat. What I kind of find fascinating about this is it kind of reminds me of that Spielberg movie that's coming out later this year. Like
Uh,
Disclosure Day, I think is what it's going to be called.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like, the aliens are coming. How does the government like deal with it, sort of thing. And of course, this is taken some influence because X-Files has released and become a massive phenomenon of a show.
Sure.
So I think every studio to a degree was trying to find their own version of X-Files.
Oh, sure, sure.
So I think to me this feels like their type, but kind of what you mentioned with Nowhere Man, they kind of get Hooper to direct the what I would guess was a 2-hour pilot, since I think it runs for about 90 minutes. So he
Yeah.
was given a very long first episode to kind of make his way through Dark Sky. So what was your kind of feelings as you went through it?
Um, I liked Nowhere Man more than Dark Skies. For me, the premise of Dark Skies is interesting to a point. Um, mm, One thing I will say is, he made a pilot, but because it was a 90-minute pilot, like he made a movie, right?
Yeah,
So I I think this is at least giving him a chance to kind of have some fun. And you get to, I can't remember if this is in the first episode. Do you get to actually see the aliens?
it's been a while since I've watched it now.
It's okay.
I think you get
Anyway,
glimpses,
yeah,
maybe.
like you don't get to actually get into the part of, because there's a part of the show where they're like negotiating with the aliens and stuff, but I don't that doesn't happen in the pilot. But um yeah, it's okay. The one thing I think is really interesting is when Toby Hooper is in his older days, did a commentary about his first movie, and it's on YouTube.
Mhm.
The one that was really experimental. You remember? Um,
Yes.
the hyper experimental movie that he made that was like a interesting precursor. Like it had some similar shots as
Eggshells. Eggshells?
yeah, and
Yes,
it had some
eggshells.
similar shots as TCM.
Yeah. Eggshells was the one he did right before TCM.
Yeah, eggshells. So there's a track you can go and watch a commentary track of eggshells on YouTube. Um, and he sits down with a comedian, maybe Lewis Black. I can't remember. Anyways, he sits down with this good film historian and somebody who knows a lot about cinema, and they get into the personality of Toby Hooper a little bit. So this is him later in life, looking back, right? So he would have made Nowhere Man and Dark Skies by now. And he really strikes me as somebody that went deep into kind of conspiracy theory. Maybe he
That would
didn't,
track.
yeah,
Mm.
like maybe he didn't necessarily do this saying that he believes all of this. I don't know. He's a difficult guy to crack, but he definitely was interested in this, and he did a lot of LSD and different drugs. So I think it's natural that he would have had these different, like I don't know. He just fits the kind of person that I imagine this would not have been like a weird conversation for him. This would have been like a very normal conversation with him. And so he makes this extraordinary event feel normal and like methodical. And I kind of understand why he was so comfortable with this material. The more I learn about him, is my long-winded way to get to that point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting too. And one of the things I was just kind of thinking about too, with this being a 90-minute thing, is it kind of also has that Twin Peaks feel to it.
Yeah.
Which also started. I don't. Do you know if that was the original? The night. I know, every time I watch the pilot, it's the 90-minute version. So I assume that's what actually aired at first. So I think it's of the era. That era where they're like, okay, if we're gonna give this a shot and it's gonna be a little weird, let's give it a couple hours to draw people in.
Right. Yeah, like this is back when I was explaining this to my son actually earlier this today. Like TV used to be an event, right? You would like
Hmm.
build your week around the TV guide in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like the VCR timer recorder was such a big thing. Like nowadays, that's nothing because you stream everything, and before that, you TiVoed or DVR'd it, and But people pay big money to find a VCR that they could time a recording on while they were gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. And I mean, at this point, TV's is this is like right before I guess what you call the golden era of TV. This is procedural television is probably at its height at this point because you have X-Files, you have Twin Peaks, you have,
Mm.
people are into the kind of the weird, and it's right before we're going to get into HBO's kind of change of television where we're going to get into Oz and The Sopranos and
Oh, okay.
yeah, and that's going to lead to, television changing quite a bit because we're going to get away from this needs to be you can tune in at any episode and understand it unless it's Twin Peaks. You're not going to understand it even if you do turn in every week. Or, where because of the advent of VCR recording and DVR and stuff like that, there was a lot more trust in the audience. So he's kind of in that weird middle ground where it's procedural television, but they obviously still want to have like an overarching plot, it almost seems like.
Right.
So it's like
Right.
how do you do that? And I remember even in 2004 when Lost came out, one of the things Abrams had kind of talked about was originally the show was still going to be a episode of the week like Gilligan's Island. Like we're not going to have an overarching plot all that much because they were still afraid people could not follow that.
Yeah.
Like you need people to be able to jump in at any time. And they ultimately went against that, but I think that's kind of the interesting part about any television made at this age, especially science fiction. Because I think science fiction can be super successful, but it's really got to capture the audience. Like it's almost like it's either a phenomenon or it fizzles out.
Even on the comedy side of things, wasn't this the golden era for Mystery Science Theater as well?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, that seems about the right time. Yeah.
Because yeah, you're right. This is, yeah, started in 1988, so it was definitely going strong at this point. So yeah, you just had like it's almost like there was enough eyeballs on the television that you could also have a pretty good following with really weird shit. And
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
there's a
Like,
lot of long running shows that were there simply because they would draw maybe 500,000 views a week, but like that was enough to keep it going, right?
and I mean, and back then, I think it's kind of funny because me and you talk, I think talked about this maybe right before we started recording, but
Mhm.
like the amount of shows that were canceled is so insane.
Mhm.
Like I kind of criticize TV shows now because it's like you don't even give it a chance for a show to
Yeah.
gain an audience. But I mean, maybe that's just always been an issue. Like,
We're starting to get into that side of things, right? Because a lot of these Toby Hooper shows are interesting, but don't really have more than one or two seasons max.
yeah, and I mean, I think back to, Breaking Bad ended up being one of the biggest shows on television, but it struggled in ratings for 3 or so years.
Mm,
And you needed a studio that says, "We believe in this."
mm,
And it's just so rare to see that. And I mean, it seemed like even then, like we think about how many big shows came out in the 90s. Like this is the era of the X-Files, of Friends, of The Sopranos, of Oz. Like you're getting into some heavy hitter cultural defining shows. Seinfeld's going strong in the 90s. And but obviously, I almost wonder if the tower of those shows made shows like Dark Sky almost impossible to live up to. Like if your expectation of studios, we want to be the next X-Files, good luck. Like that was just a show that got captured an audience
yeah,
so
even the
easily.
X-Files wouldn't be able to tell you how they did it. It just happened to hit, right?
And I mean, there's been so many great writers that have come from X-Files, but I mean, you look at Chris Carter, the showrunner, he never had success outside of X-Files that I can think of.
Mm,
Those writers went on to do other stuff. Speaking of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan was a writer for X-Files, went on to
mm,
make Breaking Bad.
mm,
A lot of those writers went to make Supernatural. That show lasted for 800,000 years. But none of those people would tell you those shows would have been successful.
right, right. I agree.
They were talented and they took a chance.
Well, and if you're interested, it's easy to watch on YouTube.
Yeah,
So at
yeah.
least it
I
lives
think the
there.
whole show's on there, right? I know I watched the pilot for sure, but I think the whole show's on YouTube.
There's like a channel that has dedicated to dark skies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Um,
any last thoughts on Dark Skies before we move on to some more
no, it
TV?
was probably, I don't want to say it was my least favorite, like it's bad. I was the least impacted by dark skies of the ones today. Um,
Yeah,
Before we get to the next movie, there is a one episode of a show called Perversions of Science that I did not watch.
I did
And
not either.
okay, and then one episode of a show called Prey that I did not watch.
I also did
Um,
not watch that. I
yeah,
don't even know
and
if
that
I think I even looked for maybe one of those, and I just out of curiosity, I don't even think I could find it.
yeah, okay, some of them are pretty obscure. He did a TV movie where this is like a mystery within an enigma within a uh within a mystery. It's called Phone Calls from the Dead, and if you do,
Me and you talked about that. I forgot about
yeah,
that.
and if you
Yeah.
look it up and do any research on it, it just gets more confusing. Like, was this a maybe like an idea? Anyways, but it's all of this takes us to 1999, and you want to introduce the Stone Cold banger that he dropped in 1999.
Yes, so this is probably actually not even probably. This is my like favorite thing we're going to be talking about this week, which is the apartment complex. A psychology graduate student becomes embroiled in a murder mystery after he takes a job as a manager of a Wonderview Apartments. This actually aired on Stars on Halloween night in 1999. So this was just
Okay.
a like you almost when I first watched it, I was like, was this supposed to be like a pilot for something? Because there's so much going on.
So many characters. Yes, no, I totally agree.
And it was just like, no, this was just something they wanted to do for Halloween. Of course, this I think is before Stars really gets into making their own like television shows like Black Sails and Spartacus and Outlander, which is massive now. So, yeah, I love this. I really did. I know I just mentioned Lost in the last thing, but that was kind of the first thing it made me think of is a little bit more of that Twin Peaks. Obviously, Lynch is going to be big in the 90s, and I think there's a little bit of influence there. But there's just such an element of like playfulness in this. Like it just it seems like the objective is just to remain fun. Like
Oh yeah.
from beginning to end, it's just here's some wacky stuff. Enjoy it. Don't think about it too much. Just get in wrapped into this ridiculous murder mystery.
It starts off with the premise of uh, an apartment building that was designed by like a cousin of MC Escher or a relative of MC Escher
Yeah,
somehow, right?
yeah, sounds right.
And it sort of it I think the writing is good in this because it kind of keeps you in that state of like discovery, like an MC Escher painting does, where you don't really know exactly like where it ends or where it begins, and like it feels like there's something deeper to it. Like I think that this is a movie that is gonna have people say it's not excellent because it feels like a TV pilot. It really does.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Um,
you can definitely tell it's a TV production.
you nailed it on that. It really feels like a TV pilot. Like this is the beginning of like a world where this is the episode where we get to learn how the guy becomes a super, and then we watch all these crazy guests come in and out of the apartment complex or something like that. Um,
And it's full of character actors too. Like almost everyone here is just a character actor. Like you have Patrick Warburton, and has to be one of his earliest roles. Like I think this is right before he's in Scream 3.
yeah, super
Uh,
early Patrick Warburton. I know everybody is in this though. Like
yeah,
who's the Ron Canada is in this.
yes,
Amanda Plummer, Miguel Sandoval, John Polito, Arlie Ernie, like Tyra Banks is in this. Like the cast is crazy.
and it's kind of fun to see Arlie Ermey in this because this is the second time he's played with Hooper because he did it.
Hmm.
He was in Spontaneous Combustion as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I always love the connection because obviously Ermey will go on to probably be one of the most memorable parts of the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting to see him be with Hooper, which is only, it's kind of wild to think timeline wise. This is only 4 years before that movie will get remade because it gets remade in 2003.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel like that's Ermey had been a staple in Hollywood in some degree, especially after Full Metal Jacket. But I mean, he was in Apocalypse Now as a extra.
Yeah.
You can find him as a pilot in that.
That's
So
awesome.
Ermey had just been around for so long, and it feels like as he got older, he just got better. Like I
Yeah.
think his character in this is this paranoid. What is he? A CIA agent that won't admit he's a CIA agent?
Yeah, like he's always listening into police channels and stuff, but he like won't tell people what he's doing.
Yeah, and I mean he's really good in that role. He's got great like I think the one thing they really did well with the casting is they picked actors who are really good at comedic timing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Patrick Warburton's another one. He's really good at timing. He's he plays this big aggressive dude. Um, but you still kind of like him. Like they push it to that he's this domestic abuser, but you still kind of like him
Yeah,
in his own way.
right, right. You know what? I forgot to say early on, the main guy here is Rob Lowe's brother.
Yes, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not even gonna lie to you. So on the poster, you know which poster I'm talking about, right? Where it's like his face, but it's like
Uh-huh.
got like a dark background. I thought it was Jared Leto.
Uh,
The first
yeah,
time I
no,
glanced, I was like, "Is that Jared Leto?" And then I was like, when
sure.
I watched, it, I'm like, "Oh, thank God, it's not."
Uh, yeah, it does kind of yeah, they have a similar look for sure. Um, and then the lead woman, I guess, across from him is Faye Masterson, who
Hmm.
has a amazing career. Um, is a historic beauty in cinema for those that like redheads. Um, but yeah, I think like I, I was just checking to see if this is on the issue pictures, and it's not. I think this is another one that's due to be rediscovered. This is a perfect example of like a movie that is weird when you first turn it on because it's not at all what you'd expect to be from Tobe Hooper. And it's
It,
got,
it, yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean, I was looking on just I don't know what it is on IMDb, but on Letterboxd, it's only had 543 people watch it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think this is probably I would say Hooper's most underrated work.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
That maybe I'm Dangerous Tonight because I'm a huge fan of that as well.
That
Like I
was really
think,
good. That
yeah,
was fun.
I think they are both like he did a lot. Like I think he his voice isn't as strong in this, but he's obviously. I mean, this is you would almost expect this to be out of his wheelhouse, but he's
Oh.
allowing these actors to kind of carry this thing. Like he's giving them room to push the material.
I could see going on the theme of him being comfortable in chaos or comfortable in the weird and the obscure.
Hmm.
Like I think this is a great example of where he could probably this is just like breathing for him. Like this is probably nothing too crazy here, but there's some directors that maybe would have struggled with there's like a lab rat component to this where they keep cutting back to scientists that are like observing rat behavior. And there's like a obviously some kind of metaphor to the rats in in a lab versus the humans in this human lab.
I
Um,
was actually wondering if this, and this is just me being a little bit of a psychology nerd, because I remember
okay.
this experiment that was done, and I'm going to miss up some details. It's been many, many years since we went over this.
Uh,
So there was a rat utopia experiment, and it was kind of an experiment to see if you gave rats everything they needed, they had to work for nothing, and you built them a utopia, what would happen? And ultimately, they become hedonists and start cannibalizing each other. And I was kind of
okay.
thinking, I was like, I wonder, because this is such a weird little like it almost feels like they're in some weird pocket dimension. Like it's the only way I can describe the apartment buildings. Like it's almost like there's no world outside of it.
I like that though. Yeah, I like that. I don't know. It there certainly is a tie to psychology in this somehow. I don't know if it's exactly that study, but I like where you're going with that. And I think he's the right person to do this if it's going to be just a director for hire,
Yeah.
because he's going to be able to bridge that experimental element into the main story. And for him, it's like not even weird. He's just like, yeah, we'll just cut to the scientist giggling about what the rats are doing, and then we'll just go back into the world, you know?
Yeah, and yeah, it's almost like it's making this parallel between like you kind of see like because what did the whole thing? He's trying to make like a thesis, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he I think he ends up making it on the apartment complex itself because it's like this like little micro habitat of these people and their quirkiness and things. Because the first thing I thought of when I watched it was it reminds me of like the little characters you see in Twin Peaks, like the there was a fish in the percolator guy
right,
in
right, right,
early
right,
Twin Peaks, and I feel like almost all these characters are like that.
right.
They're all very strange and they don't seem like real people at any point, and I think it's for the better. Like honestly,
Oh,
Chad Lowe's character is the only person who seems like a semi-real character. Like this would
yeah,
be a person.
yeah. You know what? This is similar to okay. This is remember there's this. You've seen Freaks, right? The
Yes, yes, been a
original one.
while, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So there's a similar kind of vibe here. Nobody is physically disfigured or mentally, like slow or anything like that. it's not freaks in that way, but there's an element of like an outsider coming in and learning the world that is interesting in freaks. And I think it's somewhat interesting here as well, because this is kind of like his indoctrination into this apartment complex, right? And once they trust him, like how far are they willing to go to defend him?
Yeah, like they accept him like implicitly. Like he's like this is our dude now.
Yeah,
He's our
yeah,
manager.
yeah. He's our manager. That's right. Yeah, Ron Canada's character is an interesting one. I was not able to figure out if I thought that he was. Oh, I'm sorry, not Ron Canada. I'm sorry, not Ron Canada. He's the detective in this. The guy who plays Chet in this.
Oba Babatunde?
Okay,
Something like that.
okay. I couldn't figure out if Oba was um real or not. Because he has like an interesting character that will like pop in and and pop out kind of depending on what the scene needs.
My favorite thing is the snake. Like I think that's my favorite gag in the whole movie is he's looking for a snake.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And I think that gets paid off really well.
Yeah, it does. Definitely does. Yeah, no, this is definitely due for a revisit.
And
Yeah,
if
it's
anybody's
great.
gonna put it out, tell me I'm wrong. This would be a perfect like Kino release. I feel like if
Yeah.
anybody would release it, it's Kino.
Yeah, they probably already have. It's probably sitting
Yeah.
in the warehouse
I
for
looked,
months.
I was it hasn't had any release since VHS, it looks like.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it definitely needs something.
this is prime for rediscovery.
Yeah, I agree. This was the one like I watched it, and I probably had like the least hope for it. This is one I actually did read the synopsis. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it, and I was like like I was very excited by the end of it, how much fun I had.
Well, but again, like the first 10 minutes, you're like, what the fuck is this movie?
Yeah.
Like this is so weird. The tone doesn't match anything Hooper's ever done. It's just got a weird, yeah, it's got a very generic tone to it. And you're like, oh man, this is gonna be terrible. But then it's not. Like it grabs you and for me it like I couldn't wait to see how it played out. And I think it was really good.
Well, with that, should we move on to what's probably my least favorite of everything we're gonna watch?
Yeah, the internet agrees with you, by the way. But why don't you go ahead and introduce it? Now we're in the year 2000. So there was a TV show he did called The Others, where he
Okay,
directed one episode,
of
and
course.
then we get to this.
So, Crocodile 2000. Eight college students board a houseboat for spring break that promises to be the best of their young lives. How many will survive?
Let me see if this is on They Shoot Zombies. I'm sure it's not going to be on They Shoot Pictures, but let me see if it's on They Shoot Zombies. This one had a sequel too. This is another one of his that had a sequel come out of it.
Of course it did.
Yeah, this is pretty high up on They Shoot Zombies. Well, not pretty high, but this is 2005 99.
That is much higher than I expected it to be, I will
Okay.
say.
I'm gonna defend this movie too. I'm gonna come off like such a simp for Hooper.
Okay, that's fine. I actually I'm glad because I was like, man, this is because all I really have to say, and then I'll let you go on yours because I'm very curious to hear it. I just find the characters so obnoxious.
Yeah, 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 they are. They
They're
are.
terribly obnoxious. And they made the movie feel so long. I was like, I'm all for like I watch plenty of slasher stuff. I am way okay with watching obnoxious people get like killed violently.
Hmm.
But I never felt like I got that catharsis, and it took me too long to get there.
Hmm.
Like I think the first kill's like 40 some minutes in, and I'm like, there should be two of these people should be dead. But that's pretty much it. That's really all I have to say about Crocodile. I was not a huge fan. I would just watch Eaten Alive again.
So a bunch of teenagers go to like like a swamp, or they go to like some um is it a swamp or like just a lake, I guess, to have a party, right? And what they don't know is that in the area is a hungry croc who is just minding her own business. It's a mother, and for some reason they start like picking on the eggs of this crocodile mother, and she's like, "Fuck you," and she goes on a murderous rampage against these annoying kids, right? So that's the premise of the film, and it's got all of the year 2000 staples. Like it's got the horrible, like kind of, I don't even know what you would call that. Is it new metal? I don't even know what this is.
It is
That horrible.
definitely new metal.
Okay, new metal soundtrack. Um, they're all like, you assume they're all wearing puka shell necklaces. I don't know if they are or not, but like it's just the it's got it's fully a movie of its time. And the reason, I mean, I hate all of these things that I'm saying, but the reason I had such a good time with Crocodile, is it for me, this is a movie that felt like Jim Wynorski could have made it. It's like the this is another example. I'm gonna sound like a broken record here. Hooper knew exactly what this movie was and what it wasn't. And he just leaned into it and he made this crazy movie. And when the crocodile strikes, it's brutal. Like the jaw of that crocodile can just rip through wood and like the pier and like houses, and like it's got this awesome like nasty bite, right? Just rips
Yeah.
people apart. And so it's worth it to me. It's similar to, like, I put this in a similar vein as like the Anaconda sequels, which I also defend.
I mean,
Even
I will defend Hunt for the Blood Orchid. That's a pretty dope Anaconda movie.
yeah, and I think this movie is fun. Like I don't know what else to say. Like it's obnoxious to a point that it kind of goes past it for me and ends up being a good time.
I think that's what I needed it to do. Like I get the vision, and
Yeah.
I don't hate the vision,
Yeah.
but I was like, I need all like it almost like it's like I need you guys to make like one character that's likable. And even if you kill them off first, that would be such a funny gag. I'd be okay with it.
Uh-huh.
But I was like, no. I was like, I couldn't tell you which douche bro it was who died when. They all kind of ran together for me.
No, totally.
I was like, I have no idea who any of these people are. I couldn't tell you. Like, if I were to look up their names, which I'm going to do right now, it still would not jog a memory. One of them's name is Brady Turner. That tracks. Duncan McKay. Okay. One of their names was Kit. Yep, that makes sense. And I
So,
mean, in fairness, that does seem like it's the purpose, is they are supposed to be. I don't think this was some accident where, some people might think that, like, oh, well, they tried to make likable and funny characters and they failed. I think these were absolutely supposed to be obnoxious.
oh
100%.
yeah. Oh, big time.
Like it was supposed to be a pretty comedic. And I almost wonder if it's like, I also am not a huge fan of like Lake Placid. I almost kind of like a pretty straightforward creature feature. Like
Mm,
weirdly, like I don't get into like the big humorous ones as much because
mm,
like I don't know if you saw it, but we had Alexander Aja make Crawl like in 2019.
okay.
If
I
you
haven't seen it.
Yeah, he's the same guy who made the remake of The Hills Have Eyes. He made
Uh-huh.
its
Uh-huh.
High Tension and all that. But he made an alligator movie that takes place during a hurricane in Florida. And it's a very self-serious movie to almost absurdity.
Oh, okay.
And I think I enjoy that a little bit more. Like it almost takes itself so seriously that it's a little absurd because it's just a unrealistic amount of aggression from a crocodile.
I would probably like it then.
I think you should watch Crawl. I really enjoy it. They're doing a sequel, so might as well watch it. We got to
There's
do
a
this again.
yeah, there's a quote from what's the guy's name? The guy Brian Usnam that always I've mentioned it on this show at least twice, if not five times. But I think about it when I'm watching movies like this. Is he went on the set of Ticks and he was like, these aren't these aren't scary. They're just like little, like, no, we need them bigger and juicier and nastier. And like that's the using the model, right? It's just like we're gonna make this, if someone's dying, it's gonna be a brutal death because that's more interesting to watch on in a horror movie.
Yeah.
And I like that Crocodile for me kind of went there, where like when people are dying, they're getting like brutally destroyed by the jaws of this crocodile, and they don't stand a chance, and that's fun for me.
Well, and
So
I do think that kind of follows the rule of why I've said Tremors was so successful as a both a comedy and a horror film was
mhm,
because the characters are funny,
mhm.
but when they die, it's a serious thing. They don't make a
Mm.
joke because
Yeah, yeah,
somebody died. These are their friends.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I think I was like that's a really good balance if you want to do the comedy and the horror stuff. I was like the horror has got to be real.
Hmm.
And it's fine to have the comedy. The comedy can work really good, especially if you have good writers and good actors to pull it
Sure.
off.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
think
that
this
might
is,
be what this one was missing. I don't know if any of these actors have ever played in another movie.
I don't know. Three or four of them have pages on Wikipedia, but most of them don't. Um, but yeah, I think you can. I think it's probably my least favorite one of the bunch, but I did like it. It's got a 2.2 on Letterboxd and like a 3.4 or something on IMDb, 3.8 on IMDb. I like it more than both of those, but I'm not going to spend too much time defending Crocodile. It just scratches the itch for me. I'll just say it like that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I guess we'll finish off, and we're going to kind of finish off on a weird note, but I did think it was important to get this one in before we get into our final episode next time we record, which was one that me and you were kind of confused about how it worked. So on
Yeah,
IMDb, they just listed as Shadow Realm, and it's apparently 2 hours long, and Hooper is listed as the director. From what I think we both gathered, it is several episodes of the show Night Visions.
yeah.
And since Hooper directed 2 episodes from Night Visions, we would just do those two. And I don't think there's a lot to really say on either one of them. So for anyone unaware, he did episode 11A, which is like well, basically the show is 45 minutes long and it's hosted by Henry Rollins because I mean I like Henry Rollins, but it's random. They have to have their own crypt keeper, I guess. It's an anthology horror show. Hooper's done a million of these at this point,
Right.
but he's given basically instead of getting the whole 45 minutes for one story, you're given 22 minutes and there's two stories per episode. So he does the first half of episode 11 and he does the first half of episode 12.
Okay.
So episode 11, it's just basically this girl in this weird time loop thing where it's like this labyrinth. Amanda Plummer is in this one as well, so it was kind of nice to see her come back after
Nice.
Apartment Complex. So maybe they had a working relationship.
Yeah.
Um, and the other one's Cargo, which I actually think is a better episode. It has Philip Baker Hall in it. It has Jamie Kennedy. So they were getting decent character actors, that with some notoriety in these episodes. The show doesn't appear to last all that long. I think it lasts maybe 2 seasons. And for once, Hooper did not direct the pilot episode. So I don't know. Maybe that was the mistake. But I don't think as far as Hooper goes, there's a lot to talk about in either one of them. Like you can tell he's trying to make like some cinematic moments, but they're on a horribly, horribly cheap budget.
Okay. Okay.
So he's doing the best with what he's got. But I think what this kind of does well with is this horror anthology thing is something that had been going on and especially since we've been talking about Hooper, really since Body Bags in '93. So we're looking at 9 years of this anthology thing trying to work. So he had
Hmm.
done Body Bags with Carpenter. He had done Tales from the Crypt. He had
Hmm.
done Nightmare on Elm Street.
Hmm.
Um, 100 other TV episodes of stuff. I mean, obviously, this was something that he wanted to make work, and I think it's interesting that we'll get into the next episode where we really have like five movies left. We have Mortuary and Toolbox Murders, and then we have Gin. But the two other things in there are his 2 episodes of Masters of Horror, which is Dance of the Dead and The Damn Thing. And I think it's kind of a good one to end off on for him, just to kind of set up that he's going to be part of what's a pretty successful horror anthology. And I think something like Shadow Realm and his episodes kind of highlight what the problem is. There's a lot going on in these episodes, and they only have 23 minutes to tell a story. So it feels like it's sprinting the entire time. Nothing can breathe in these episodes. And I'm like, they
Hmm.
should have made these like 45 minutes long. And I think when we get into Masters of Horror and his 2 episodes there, he gets 60 minutes. And I think you could breathe a lot better with 60 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's the only thing I really have to say on Shadow. I didn't watch the whole whatever Shadow Realm was. I didn't watch it, but I did watch the 2 episodes of Hooper's Night Visions, and I think it's a good setup for kind of the end of his career, since he really only has like two American theatrical movies left, which is Mortuary and Toolbox Murders. So we're really going to end off on kind of a weird spot for him, but that's Hooper, so that makes sense. I would be weird if he ended normally.
Well, I'm excited to see these. I mean, yeah, this we're so close to the end now. Um, it's interesting thinking about somebody like Lars von Trier that we did,
Yeah.
and then who I think it was so easy. Well, I mean, who knows if we got it right, but it felt easy to kind of pick apart phases for him for von Trier.
Yeah, and I feel like there's these ideas that just kind of stay prevalent for Hooper throughout his career. Like, we sit there and talk about the Mangler, and we're going back and talking about stuff from the 80s and stuff from the 70s for him. We talk about the horror anthology thing. Well, that stayed such a perpetual part of his career after Canon shut down.
Yeah,
And, obviously there was these ideas that he kept trying to come back to in some
right,
way and
right.
maybe try to get something satisfying. Like I said, I think I'm very interested to go back and talk more in depth about Night Terrors with Jin when we talk about Jin, because I think it's very interesting that he kind of came back to similar ideas. Because the thing I think I like about Jin is it's the first, I think it's United Arab Emirates. It was one of those Middle Eastern countries. It was their very first horror movie that they ever made.
It's awesome.
So it's kind of neat to see those kind of things kind of go
Definitely,
on.
definitely. Well, man, yeah, this has been a lot of fun. This episode for me, I say this every time. I just continually reminded of like who Hooper is and versus who I thought he was, and I love it. So I can't wait for this to end, and I can't wait to like look back and talk about all of his works together because he's just I think he's an underrated director. This guy, he had a little bit of a strange career, um, and
I think we
unfortunately,
would look at Hooper a lot different if Canada didn't shut down.
yeah, totally
I
agree.
really think that was such a detriment to his career trajectory. But he still got so much good stuff afterwards. It's just kind of the unfairness. And it's kind of interesting. I think of the main four, Craven was the only one who kind of kept a pretty consistent career. Like he never really lost money like the rest of them did. Like Carpenter talked about in the early 80s, the thing was what derailed his career.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about now.
Yeah, and then you look at Hooper and it's Canon shutting down.
Right,
And then with Romero is such a weird one to talk about because he's so known for just one thing,
right,
like his Dead series,
right.
that honestly try to talk about any of his other stuff is like, oh yeah, he did make other things.
Like same with Lucas, right? Same with George Lucas. Like there's
Yeah.
certain directors that are just they're kind of really do one thing.
So yeah, I've enjoyed it. I'm glad we got through this. I think the next episode is going to be very interesting. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts because I think it's going to be a weird roller coaster for the next one.
Can't wait, man. Glad I get to do it with you.
Yeah.
Um, safe travels. I don't know why I'm gonna say safe travels. I hope work is good for you, and
Thanks.
see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.